I should have done that sooner. Hello,
Hello,
this is Amy,
welcome. And this is Olivia.
and this
And this
is
is Girls
Girls
Gone
Gone Spooky.
Spooky.
We're back with another
Well,
episode.
back with another episode. I was just saying this to Amy, but I don't know about you. Is yours like kind of positive this week or is yours scary?
No, it's not scary. It's pretty
Okay.
interesting. So,
Okay, good.
yeah,
It's a
the week
good
will be good.
I feel like it's a good what's
Palette
the word I was
cleanser.
looking for? Yeah, a little palate cleanser because next week mine are so scary.
Wow, I'm just
Oops.
amazed that you have planned ahead. I am
I know. I really went
day
for
of
it. It's
gal.
because I went through our whole housekeeping doc and like was like, this here, this here, this here,
Yeah.
this here. And then I like found one. I was like, that goes with that. So I just really went for it.
Yeah.
Um but I wanted to share something really quickly, which is like not on theme at all for
Okay.
today. But we've obviously talked a lot about like doppelgangers and mimics.
hmm
And I read the most interesting theory, like just came across it by chance on Reddit. And so I'll just read the initial post, which is very short. It's from
Okay.
responsible underscore pair underscore 936. And they said, the title is Can a Mimic Manifest Physically? What is this? Which,
What is
love
this?
that. What is this? I was working at home once and heard my partner come through the door. The keys, the door opening, the handle, walking down the hallway past my office. After 5 or 10 minutes had gone by, I was really in the middle of a workflow. I went out to say hello, and no one was home. I went out there totally convinced, looked in every room, and I couldn't find them. They came home 20 minutes later, and this has happened twice, the exact same thing. There was no one calling my name, but I heard them come in the house. And so that, like, of course, like people are like explaining like, oh well, it could be a doppelganger, it could be this, it could be a mimic, whatever. And someone posted, and I thought this is so fascinating. It's called Vardoger, Vardoger. And I guess it's like, it's not quite it is like an entity, but it's almost like they call it like a mental projection. So I'll read what they said. They said, often
Okay.
seen shortly before the person actually arrives home. Some have speculated that a Vardoger is some sort of mental projection of the intention of the person to go home. So think of it
Oh.
like the intent we send out when we're excited to be almost home or thinking about being home as we're leaving the office. I like to believe
Wow.
cats and dogs can sense this more easily, and that's why they seem to know you're coming home.
Oh.
Your story is very typical of the Vardoger. Sometimes they do include hearing a greeting or something like that, but it's never like a mimic, which seems to try and draw you to another location. And I just was like, that just blew my mind. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, because like we talk, like, not we, but people talk so much nowadays, like millennials and Gen Z, especially about like manifestation and intention
Yeah.
and like putting your intention into the universe. And like,
hmm
I think that like there's some power to it. I think like it also requires action, not just intention, but
Yeah.
whatever. But this is just so fascinating because I think that that feeling of like, oh, I can't wait to go home and
Yeah.
like get my like comfy clothes on and like
Uh-huh.
that intention is so like such a palpable
Yeah.
feeling
So
that it's
strong.
almost like pushing you forward in time.
hmm Yeah. That is
That
interesting.
really got me. It really
Uh-huh.
got me going. I loved it.
Yeah. And the animal thing, like,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. They do know somehow.
hmm Yeah.
And
Because even if, and I'm sure like circadian rhythm and all of that has something
yeah.
to do with it too, but like for me, like I don't get home at the same time from work every day. Some days I
hmm
come home like right after lunch, and other days I'm
Yeah.
home at like 6. So it's
Yeah.
like, especially if I have plans after work or something, sometimes
hmm
it's way later. And like obviously, I'm sure Banks like knows my smell and knows like the sound of my footfalls and like my keys jingling, like the tone
Yeah.
that it makes. But
hmm
there have been times when like Noah's out and I'm home and he goes and sits by the door and I'm like,
hmm
weird. And then I
Mhm.
get the buzz from the lobby 28
Yeah.
floors down that
Mhm.
he's there. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the sensation that he's coming home, like Binks
Mhm.
knows
Right.
before I do even.
Yeah. Oh,
Very weird.
I like that idea because yeah,
Hmm.
that's not
Me
creepy.
too.
It's just like, ooh, it's
Yeah, it's
nice.
like,
I'm coming
oh,
home.
I'm coming home. Well, it's like a
Yeah.
little warning, like 20
Uh-huh.
minute warning.
Yeah.
Put your pants back
Exactly.
on, 20-minute warning.
Yep. Somebody's coming home. You better be ready.
Better be ready.
Oh,
Oh
I
God.
love that.
Yeah, I like that too. So I know it's very off topic, but I just wanted to.
Mhm.
Well, it's kind of off topic, not really.
Yeah, I think it fits. I
We
think
have
it fits.
a broad stroke today,
Yes. Why don't you
talking about.
introduce us?
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be talking about unexplained, not unexpected, unexpected too,
Mhm.
but unexplained phenomena, and there are so many things that fall into that bucket. Some of which
Yeah.
we've talked about before. A couple we're going to actually repeat today because there's just like so much information on all of
Mhm.
these. So I am going to be talking about third man syndrome or third man factor, and also streetlight interference, which is like the weirdest thing ever.
Uh-huh.
And like potentially the kind of like door opening to like a whole nother like research area, I guess, when it pertains to like psychic ability and like how that manifests, and like could be sort of a key to understanding any kind of psychic ability or
Mhm.
like clairvoyance, whatever that's called, audio, or I can never remember all of the
Mhm.
terms for it. But there's like a
Yeah.
sensory one, a vision one, and a hearing one.
Hearing. Mhm.
Um, yeah, clairsentient, clairaudient, and
Oh.
clairvoyant.
Mhm.
Um, so it like could potentially be and like kind of the key to those things, which we'll
Right.
talk about a little bit.
Ooh, cool.
Um, and I won't spoil yours.
Okay.
So should I just jump into this?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So, like I said, today is a bit of a palate cleanser, not going to scare your pants off you.
Mhm.
That's a theme today, pantless.
Yeah.
I'm wearing
Yeah.
pants, just in case anyone was
I'm
wondering.
not.
I am wearing pants. That's my girl.
Just
Um,
kidding. I am.
just kidding. Okay, so I came across this on Reddit like a long time ago. And I think I actually read the story. Um, I read the story once, like again, a long time ago.
Mhm.
But it was basically a story about this group like hiking, and I'm trying to pull it up really quickly. I'm just gonna like skim through it really quickly. But the person who posted, who's a Castagnola 2511, this is from a long time ago, like 6 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, they were saying like they posted it in the paranormal subreddit, but they were like, I thought, like I was sure that this was paranormal, and now I'm understanding it's like a psychological thing, but
Mhm.
it's actually not. There's not like a lot of certainty if it's just one or the other. It seems like
Yeah.
maybe it's a little bit of both because it's
Both.
so unexplained.
Mhm.
So there's sort of like two categories where this falls into, and let me actually just like go back really quick and sort of explain, generally speaking, what this is. So third man syndrome or third man factor is a phenomenon that occurs typically in times of distress or crisis, and
Hmm.
it's the feeling or recollection that there's another person or entity there alongside you, even though you're alone. And it doesn't have to, you don't actually have to be alone. Like it could be like Amy and I are hiking and we're lost. And then we both remember our friend Kayla being there. Like,
Mhm.
but she actually wasn't there. So
Yeah.
it's like a weird thing. And like it can impact two people at once, which that starts to kind of border on like paranormal to me,
Yeah.
especially because it's like if we're both experienced that. I mean, I know like mass hallucination is a thing, but still, it
Yeah.
just seems weird. Um, so people will report feeling, hearing, or even seeing this quote unquote third man who acts as a voice of comfort and support in an otherwise scary time, and in some cases, literally saves lives.
Yeah.
So the term actually comes from a T.S. Eliot poem called The
Oh,
Wasteland, which is like so
interesting.
random.
Yeah.
but it makes sense when you like understand the background of the poem. So the poem was inspired by the real life experience of Ernest Shackleton, who is an Irish explorer who went on a near death expedition in Antarctica in 1916.
Hmm.
After their ship was trapped in ice, he and two other members of his crew made a 36-hour long trek across the Arctic over mountains and
Wow.
glaciers to a whaling station. During that time, several members of his three-man team, Ernest included, kept feeling like there was a fourth man alongside them.
Hmm.
So T.S. Eliot wrote this stanza inspired by that phenomenon. Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look up ahead up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you. Gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded, I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who
Hmm.
is that on the other side of you? So it's just this kind of like,
Interesting.
in some ways comforting, in some ways like eerie. The poem
Hmm.
itself really kind of gives me like the wig a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's actually typically a very like calming or like
Yeah.
life-saving in a
It's like
lot of instances
protection.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are a lot of hypotheses for what exactly it is, like why it happens. And it ranges from, of course, like guardian angels, which
Mm.
is kind of what a lot of people think of, or long deceased ancestors, if it's someone you recognize, or
Yeah.
just our brains psychologically protecting us in a moment of extreme stress. So, like,
Hmm.
that's very common in mental illness where
Yeah.
moments of extreme stress, even people with like multiple personality disorder, they can actually like comfort themselves with another personality. But a lot of
Mm.
these are reported by people who do not suffer from a mental illness like that. So
Yeah.
very interesting.
Hmm.
I'll come back really quickly to the original story that kind of like piqued my interest in this as a
Hmm.
general topic. And I just can't remember if I've already shared it, so I don't want to read the whole thing because it's kind of long. But essentially,
Okay.
this is from Acastagnola. So they went on a camping trip with two of their friends. And it was basically in the woods in Oregon. And it was just like a super cool, fun trip. And it was like with counselors and a bunch of kids, but it was like mainly this uh, person and two of their friends. So they head out after lunch one day into the forest and they're trying to find this like water tower that is sort of along it's kind of one of the like checkpoint locations.
Hmm.
And they're getting kind of bored. So they're like, let's like go off trail for a little bit. So they go off
Yeah.
trail. Um, and are like, okay, like we're exploring, messing around. They find like cool like bones of like a fox or something, and they're kind of
Hmm.
hanging around. Then they hear a noise and they're like, oh, gotta be quiet.
Hmm.
So there are like bears and mountain lions and stuff in the area. So they're like, oh, that's a little dangerous. So um, they're like, let's get out of here. And they start running, which like if you're being chased by a bear, don't run.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah.
They start running and they say, we run so fast that I see the dirt path that would take us back to camp via the water tower, but the others say that's not the path and urged me to keep running. So it was the path. And when we stopped running long enough to get our bearings, we'd taken enough turns to become completely lost. It was still light out, so they keep walking until they like found a sign or some other path or something or someone.
Hmm.
Um, and so they are walking until basically it's night. They're terrified, but their friend Deb seems to know where she's going. So one of the three out there, Deb, is like,
Hmm.
I know what's up. I think I know where we are.
Yeah.
Suddenly she darts to the right. And my friend shortly after says, oh, I see a road. So they're like, thank God. So they like make their way through all these like this overgrown like underbrush and stuff. And they get out onto the road and they're just like waiting, walking on the road slowly, waiting for someone to drive by. And it's dark and they're,
Yeah.
three teenage girls. So finally someone stops on the road, some guy in a pickup truck. And he's like explaining like, oh, it was weird. I like really wanted a Pepsi and I realized all I had was Coke. So I like decided to go out and get a Pepsi. And they're
Mm.
standing there like, do we get in the car with this guy? So
Yeah.
they do. And he ends up being fine, like
Hmm.
harmless. Um, but yeah, so he had been out on some like retreat with his church group, and it's just like weird coincidence because he says this whole thing about the Coke or the Pepsi. Like he wasn't supposed to be out, like he was supposed to be back with his group, so it was just kind of
Yeah.
weird that he was on that road at all.
Mhm.
And the road, I think, was like very not frequented, so
Yeah.
it was sort of like a blessing that they found the road. He happened to be driving by like 2 minutes after they reached the road, all thanks to
Yeah.
Deb, who navigated them back. So they finally get back to the cabin that with their school trip, and like all hell breaks loose. Like the chaperones are like, where the hell were you? And like this church guy is like, the guy from the church retreat is like, everything's fine. Like I found them like 15 miles away
Oh my
from
god.
like where they should have been, on this like random back road that no one drives on. Um, so whatever, like they're hungry, they need rest, whatever. So they're fine. So they get back home and they can't wait to tell their like youth group everything that had happened because it's just like so crazy. And we're like, and everyone's like, that's insane. Like that's, you're making this up. And they're like, no, like this happened, Deb, like tell them. And Deb
Yeah.
is like, what are you talking about? I don't even go to your school. I wasn't there.
Oh my
And
god.
both the friends are like, yes, you were. You literally led us out of the woods. And they realized that because they had been walking for so long, the
Mhm.
narrator, the original poster is like, I remember distinctly the jacket she was wearing. It was one of
Mhm.
those like color block kind of 80s like windbreaker kind of things, like really
Yeah.
bright, really colorful. She's like, I was like staring at the back of Deb's fucking jacket like the whole time. And she doesn't even own that, a jacket like that.
Wow.
Like it was so weird.
Yeah.
So
That's
no idea
amazing.
how, because the original poster also mentions a couple times like, I have a terrible sense of direction. So if it
Mhm.
wasn't Deb who was there, like how the fuck did we find that road? If they were
Right.
15 miles out.
Yeah. Yeah. How they get
So
so far away.
I know.
That's
I don't know.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Wow.
So um moving on, I
Yeah.
have found a compilation of news stories that are just like really very, very interesting.
Okay.
Um, so I'm just going to go through them. Like they're pretty brief for the most part. So I'm just going to go through the ones that I found to be the most interesting. This was a roll up from on BuzzFeed from by one of their contributors, Angelica Martinez. So the first one is anonymous, and they say, when I was young, about 9 years old, I had to have pretty major surgeries due to a birth defect. I was feeling sick, in pain, and frustrated about not being able to sleep or get out of bed. When I rang the bell for the night nurses to help me to the toilet, a smiling man dressed in all white would come straight away and help me. He was so happy and peaceful, with the biggest smile and a bright aura to him. He always came straight to me as soon as the bell rang. The next day, after the second night of him helping me, I asked the other nurse if he would be on duty that night because I really liked seeing him. The staff was very confused, even after my description of him. She told me there weren't any male staffers on duty those past 2 nights, and that none of the porters or other staff were all white or would have been answering bells on the ward.
Right.
It's just like
Wow.
weird. Like,
Mhm.
who was that? How
Yeah.
did she get to the bathroom without him? Like,
Right.
without
Yeah.
help? So it's just like one of those weird, weird things.
Yeah.
Um,
That is weird. Because
this,
also, how
yeah,
would like a ghost help you to the
right.
bathroom, you know?
They'd have to be like corporeal, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, how are you? Yeah.
Having, yeah, like a physical effect on a
And there
person.
are so many of these. So
Yeah.
here's another one.
Okay.
And this one is less like, oh, I helped you to the bathroom. This is like someone saved their life who
Yeah.
wasn't there.
Wow. Okay.
So, also anonymous. I once fell about 10 feet from a ledge overlooking a lake. The ledge was above large rocks, and as I fell, I was sure I was about to be gravely injured. Suddenly, I felt a large hand on my back that caught me and pushed me against the wall.
Mm.
Surprised, I turned around to thank my savior, and no one was there. I
Mm.
was dangling over the rocks, feeling the hand as it pushed me straight against the wall until both my feet were secured. I cannot explain what happened that day, but I know there was someone or something there that saved me.
Hmm. Wow.
So weird. Um, There
I
are a
love
ton. I'm not going to read these, at least not this grouping of them, but there are a ton where someone like yells when they're driving and have fallen asleep, like "wake up,"
mm,
and they like wake up in time to
yeah,
hit the brakes
that's
before like launching off a bridge, like
mhm,
crazy shit like that.
wow.
Um, this one was crazy and like made me really emotional. Um, I'm disabled and I survived the attacks on the Twin Towers.
Wow.
Yeah, I was buried under the debris for about 15 hours, but I
Mhm.
was never alone. I kept hearing from a
Oh,
voice that said his name was Michael. When I was weakest, he would just keep me talking to him. When I was rescued, I found out that there was never a man named Michael anywhere in the area. I still
oh,
wonder who the voice was that saved me from becoming another death on that terrible day.
yeah.
I was just like,
Oh,
what? Like,
yeah.
that's like so amazing.
Yeah, that seems guardian angel-y to me.
So yeah, so crazy.
Yeah.
This is another kind of similar one. When my husband was in his 20s, he fell asleep while driving and crashed into a telephone pole. He was hurt and remembered a teenage kid knocking on his window and telling him he called the police, but do not get out of the car because there are live wires everywhere. When
Hmm.
my husband was finally rescued, there was no sign of the kid, and the police said that no one had called them. They just came because the power was out. Not only that, but they said there was no way anyone could have gotten that close to the car on account of all of the live wires. And if
Mm,
my husband had tried to get out of the car, they probably would have killed him.
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. My husband so vividly remembers the kid. He really believes he was real, but his mom believes it was his guardian angel.
Oh, yeah.
And so
These are,
like those are ones that are like some are like, but could that be just like your subconscious, like remembering that like if there are live wires, you can't step on the ground? You know, it's like
mhm,
some of them are like, huh, but then there are ones like this next one. A few years ago, we were on a family vacation in Virginia Beach. The water was pretty choppy and the waves kept knocking me down before I could even properly get in. So, as I was pregnant at the time, I decided to just relax on the sand instead. My sister and my three siblings went out swimming, and without realizing it, my husband and one of my sisters got pulled out pretty far. They
mm,
were far from everyone else swimming, and the lifeguard was even blowing the whistle that they needed to come back in. The water was so rough, though, they were having a hard time getting any closer to shore and genuinely thought they might drown.
mm,
My sister is pretty petite, so my husband ended up carrying her piggyback style back to shore. They were both scared and tired, and my husband told me later that something or someone helped them make it back. It
mm.
felt like someone gave him a push, he said. The next day, there was a perfect handprint on his back on the right side of his shoulder blade. It looked like a reverse sunburn in the perfect shape of a hand. Someone was definitely
Whoa.
looking out for them that day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Weird. That's from Emily
Wow.
from Ohio.
Yeah.
Weird.
These
So,
are
so,
all
so weird.
so nice, though.
Yeah, I know. I know. This one there's like another one that's like a car situation where like they drop their phone, excuse me, while they're driving and they're like
Yeah.
leaning into the
Oh,
well to get
yeah.
it and like aren't looking and
Mhm,
they feel suddenly the steering wheel go left and then right really hard, but
mhm.
like it wasn't them. They had their
Right.
hand on the steering wheel, but they didn't
Yeah.
move it. They had swerved around like a construction worker by like inches.
Wow.
And there was a quote from them that said, Grandma used to say, don't drive faster than your angels can fly. And I could feel
Oh.
her in that moment. And I just thought,
Oh.
like, well, that's a good saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Don't drive
is.
faster than your angels can
Yeah.
fly.
That's such a grandma saying.
Such a grandma saying.
How
I
do
love it.
grandmothers acquire these things
And the
that they say?
knowledge, I don't
Yeah.
know. They're so silly. But yeah, so what did my therapist actually hit me with like such a good one. She said like you step where angels dare not tread or something like that, and I was like, oh my
Whoa. Yeah.
god.
Where'd you
Elaborate,
get
Hill.
that one? Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, that was a winner.
Mhm.
um this one is wild, and we've read other stories like this that weren't so much like in the third man realm at the time. They felt more like some sort of like ghosty thing, but I think they're
Mhm.
sort of interchangeable, like at least for this one specifically. This is another anonymous one. Years ago, I was heading back by train from my parents' house to where I was going to university. It was late, and I had my head resting on the window with my eyes closed. Suddenly, a voice started telling me to move. It got louder and more urgent, but when I opened my eyes, there was no one there yelling at me in the middle of the train. The other few passengers were all minding their business, but the voice in my head got louder and louder, more and more urgent. I felt silly moving, but I finally couldn't ignore this voice screaming at me, so I
Mhm.
scooted a seat over and sat upright. Just then, a bullet came through the train window right where my head had been.
Oh my god.
I'd have been
Wow.
done for had I stayed where I was.
Whoa.
What?
Can
Because
you
remember there was the
imagine?
one about someone sleeping and then they moved and like a tree came and like stabbed their pillow. Do you remember
Oh,
that
yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah, I do.
Similar kind of thing. It's like
Wow. And that's why
so
you
crazy.
listen to your intuition when you have it. Don't
Yeah,
doubt it. Oh
true. It's
boy.
so true.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. There was one that I really liked that I'm trying to find.
Okay.
Um,
One thing interesting
yeah.
about one of those that you read, it's weird thinking about like if your subconscious is telling you like don't step outside the car, there's live wires.
Hmm.
Why would it look like someone else? Especially someone that you
I don't
don't
know.
know. It's kind of weird to think about that.
Well, then there's that thing that like um you can't
Dream.
dream someone you've never seen.
Yeah, right.
Like because people like waking dream, you like daydream,
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll even daydream about like people I don't know, but they're
Mhm.
like probably people I've seen on the street or
Yeah.
like an extra or a cameo in some show
Yeah.
I've seen.
Mhm.
So I wonder if it's that or like that in that moment, like if we're going full psychology side, like not paranormal,
Mhm.
if it's that you're so like your brain is so stressed and like in like crisis mode that it's like I need someone else to tell me what to do
Yeah.
because I'm so scared and like confused.
Mhm.
Like that kind of does make sense to me, but at the same time it's weird. Like some of the
Mhm.
details, like seeing Deb and remembering her jacket, and then
Right.
Deb being like, I don't have a jacket like that. And
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I don't go to your school.
Yeah.
This is just like
Yeah.
really, really, really weird.
Yes.
Um,
Bizarre.
yeah, it was really weird. I'm still trying to find this one. Um, okay, but this is another crazy, uh, car accident one.
Okay.
Um, When I was about 18, I was in a terrible car accident. While waiting for emergency services to arrive, there was an old man wearing shorts and a t shirt standing nearby. The car was a wreck. Again, weird details about like
Mhm.
what he's wearing.
Yeah.
The car was a wreck and my legs were trapped. The old man directed me on how to get out of the car and told me to get my phone and call 911. After
Mhm.
emergency services arrived, I was told that the car was so wrecked they were waiting for the jaws of life to free me, and no one could figure out how I managed to get myself out. I was
Wow.
also declared deceased by the first emergency vehicle that stopped. I told them about the old man, but no one in the car with me or on the accident scene remembers him. I was the only one to see the old man. I'm still so grateful to whoever he was for helping me get out of that car. Like,
Yeah. Wow.
what? So weird.
Amazing.
So weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and then there are more of like put your seatbelt on now, and it's like right
Mhm.
before a
A
car
crash.
slams into them or T-bones them or like something
Mhm.
fucking crazy. Um, there are some where it's like this one's actually like really sweet. My mother was going through cancer treatment and wasn't feeling great after her most recent appointment that afternoon. She went to bed early and I stayed up playing video games on the other side of the house. Around midnight, I felt a hand touch my shoulder and a really strong feeling that I should check up on my mom. I found her passed out on the floor and took her to the hospital where she received an emergency blood transfusion. She's now 10 years cancer free and thriving. But that night, it was like someone else was there watching out for her. And that makes me feel like it's like a family member, like a
Yeah.
parent, like her parent, maybe who passed, or even her grandparent.
Yeah.
It's just like so wild. There was one that I really wanted to see. Oh, well, this one's a really good one too. Again, a lot of these are like car accident ones, which is
Yeah.
just so interesting. In 2010, my husband and I were barreling down the highway at unsafe speeds in the pouring rain. We were really young and arguing over how much he had spent on a TV. Classic. Suddenly, we began hydroplaning. The car went sideways on the highway and then straightened back out. And there was a semi coming out of a subdivision, and we barely missed hitting it. We started heading for straight for a small group of trees. I reached back and grabbed the front of our very young son's car seat, thinking somehow I was protecting him. This like makes me really emotional for some reason. I looked at my husband and he said, "I love you."
Oh no.
And it was like everything slowed down for a moment. I remember hearing this voice that sounded urgent saying, "You have to pick up your legs. You have to pick up your legs now." I immediately pulled them into the front of my seat. I looked forward and time was no longer slowed down. I watched in horror as we headed straight for the trees and slammed into them. The next thing I remember is this wave of pain shooting up my spine. I threw my head back and screamed, and I also quickly realized my foot was hurting but was stuck. The floorboard had been pushed upwards, meeting the dashboard, and the dashboard was pushed forward and had met my seat. My right foot had slipped out of the seat and was stuck between the dashboard and my seat. I eventually managed to dislodge it. It was broken in 3 places, and my back was broken in 5. I have been permanently disabled ever since. My husband also broke his right femur in half. Luckily, our young son was unharmed. We believe it hit the trees at 80 miles per hour at least, which is like 140 kilometers per hour, I think.
Don't ask me.
It's fast. If I hadn't picked my legs up when I did, they would have been completely crushed and I likely would have been unable to walk. So anyway, everyone that has seen pictures of the car says how lucky we are to be alive. They really have no idea how right they are. It's just like crazy fucking stories.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the last one I was like trying to find and I found it.
Okay, good.
I was driving home after running an errand with my youngest child. I was about to enter an intersection with a green light for me when all of a sudden a male voice yelled, "Stop," very loudly. I did, and another vehicle plowed through their red light. I looked around and no one was on the sidewalk. There was a tall cinder block fence blocking the road from the homes and everything else around. I was even more shocked when my daughter asked, "Who yelled that?" I asked her, "What did you hear?" And she asked who the man was who yelled, "Stop." So she had heard it too.
Yeah.
Just like, fucking what? Like,
Yeah.
just like things you can't explain. It's just so weird. Like some of them I'm like, okay, you're like projecting, whatever. Even if it's like your subconscious giving you that like stop message in someone else's voice, like where does that intuition come from?
Right. Yeah.
That's just so crazy.
Yeah, it's still beyond understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oof.
So that is third man syndrome.
I like that one.
I like it too. Nice. It's also, it's very nice. So this one is streetlight interference. And I came across one celebration, 6618 on Reddit, who posted a compilation of videos of their experience with streetlight interference. And it is bonkers. Like they put like a finger gun pointing at a streetlight and then they click their little thumb trigger and the light goes on.
What?
Like or they'll just like point and the light goes on. And it's not like dusk or whatever, like it's like the middle of the day. Like it is so weird. So it's not like they're just timing it with like, oh, it's dark and they're coming along on because of the solar sensors. So they say, long story short, I've always been able to do this, never understood why. When it first happened, I thought it was a coincidence, but then as time went on, I saw a pattern of different lights, times, places, etc. I was dumbfounded because I thought it must have been something normal to explain it.
Yeah.
When I started to mention it to friends, they of course looked at me like I was crazy. And not until recently, I did start to record the encounters for my own personal record and would love to hear your feedback, opinion, and any advice. And it is a minute and 30 seconds of them pointing, light on, passing
Wow.
by, light on, finger gun, light
Oh my
on. Like, it's
gosh.
so weird.
Yeah.
So someone said, then someone, so odd underscore storm 6436 seems to be pretty knowledgeable about this.
Hmm.
So they said, this happens to me and actually more frequently when I'm around one or more other people. I found this explanation below for reference. The phenomenon that is known as street lamp interference, or SLI, is possibly a psychic event that is just beginning to be recognized and studied. Like most phenomena of this type, the evidence is almost exclusively anecdotal. Typically, though, a person who has this effect on streetlights, also known as a slider, which is so cute, SLI nerd slider,
Love it.
finds finds that the light switches on or off when he or she walks or drives beneath it. Obviously, could happen occasionally by chance with a faulty street light. You've probably noticed that it's happened to you once in a while, but sliders claim that it happens to them on a very regular basis at times of day that don't make sense. It doesn't happen every time with every streetlight typically, but it occurs often enough to make these people suspect that something unusual or paranormal is going on.
Hmm.
So then people will talk about like, oh, I like fellow slider here, and everyone in this like slide. So like fellow slider here, like people are so cute about it. And a lot of people first noticed it in college, like when walking around, because campuses tend to have a lot
Yeah.
of those over street lights.
Safety lights.
Exactly. So some find that it happens more with like specific kinds of lights. So like one of them was like the older style sodium arc lights. Like they knew like, oh, the ones that glow kind of orange, those are the
Oh,
ones where it happens to me. So
yeah.
it's just like so weird.
Hmm.
This one freaked me out.
Okay, let's
So
hear
this
it.
is from Sleepy Teepee. They say, oh, same. And it all started for me when my friend and I went to visit the Wailing Lady, a
Oh,
local paranormal hotspot where many people would go and report seeing a wraith like apparition screaming in the woods. I was maybe a sophomore or second year at the time, and my friend was a year ahead of me who took me out there. He'd reported seeing her before when he went there and begged me for weeks to go back with him, even saying that as he ran away scared. He almost fell into what he thought might have been a shallow grave. Yikes.
whoa.
Me, being the good Samaritan that I am, decided we'd go look for that patch he almost fell into and report it to the sheriff's department. If we did find it, they also selfishly wanted to see if it was a shallow grave.
Yeah.
So we get there, and it's basically a sinkhole / condemned plot of overgrown land behind a shopping plaza. Spicy.
So, yeah.
You could tell when they developed it, they had intended on using the space because the road ran behind the plaza and dead ended in the lot. There were streetlights overhead and nothing else between the building and the end of the road. As we slowly crawled down the road behind the plaza, my buddy's radio cut out and all the electronics in his car started going crazy. And at the same time, the streetlights overhead started to flicker,
Whoa.
turning off entirely as we passed underneath them, and eventually the car completely sputtered out and shut off.
Whoa.
So, like, complete electrical
Uh-huh.
freak out.
Yeah.
It was a
Ooh.
nice newer car, too, that my friend absolutely babied. Absolutely nothing should have been causing this, and it's the only time I ever saw his car do it. And I was present for thousands and thousands of mileage on that car over the years.
Hmm.
Um, Of course, we noped the fuck out of there as fast as possible and never went into the woods again. He put the car in neutral and we hopped out to push it back towards the plaza. And at this time, the sun was almost completely down and the vibes were absolutely electric. As we got further away, I stopped and asked him to point to where he saw the apparition. And I swear I could make out a green-like color sort of hovering where he was pointing. We
Hmm.
didn't hear the screaming, but he saw it too, and the pits of our stomachs flipped upside down, and we gave it all we had to get the hell out of there. The
Wow.
streetlights turning back on as we got further away from them, and the radio finally began to cut back in as well.
Hmm.
Eventually, he hopped in and got it to start. I jumped in, and we never looked back. I never had an SLI before then, and I've had it countless times since. Maybe I should reach out to said friend for the first time in years and see if he wants to try and go back sometime. So it's like funny
Well,
because some of these people are like, oh, this has happened to me since I was a kid. And
mhm.
others where like they've said this, like there was this weird event
Yeah,
and then suddenly it's
it
happening to you all
developed.
the time.
Yeah.
It's just
Whoa.
like, what the hell? So
Weird.
yeah,
It's,
psychokinetics, dude.
yeah, man, that's a great story.
Yeah. So those are mine.
Oh, amazing. I'm gonna try some finger guns at the street light later, see what
I
happens.
know. It's like dusk right now, so now is probably my
Oh,
time to
yeah.
do it.
No. Okay, get up. We'll wait.
No.
Let us
Wow.
know. Wow, great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so mine, I don't I couldn't remember, and I searched in our doc.
Hmm.
Have we talked about it before?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about the Mandela effect, which, yeah, it's interesting. So,
Blows my mind.
yeah, this is so the concept of the Mandela effect, it came along in 2009 when a paranormal researcher named Fiona Broom realized that she was absolutely convinced that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 1980s. Like, so convinced, thinks maybe she was taught this, like,
Mhm.
just so sure. But that is not true. He was released from prison in 1990, and he didn't pass away until 2013. So he had a long life
Yeah.
after. And so she posted her story about this online, like how staunchly she believed that he had died. And it turned out that many, many other people had the same memory or thought that he had passed away in the 80s.
So
So,
weird.
yeah, it ended up spurring this whole phenomenon of people realizing that we seem to have these like widely shared memories that, yeah, are shared with a large group of people, um, but they're inaccurate somehow. So it,
So weird.
yeah, this does not describe like I swear I put my keys over here, but they're not
Right.
there when I check it. This is like wide, large scale sort
A
of
mass
stuff.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some like classic examples of the Mandela effect. There are so many of these, by the way. So, I picked out just a couple. Um,
Okay.
but one big one is a lot of people think the peanut butter brand is Jiffy, and actually, I could have sworn it was Jiffy. It's Jif, just JIF. um, Same with the Bernstein Bears, if you've read those
Yes.
books. It's Berenstain with an A, not an E.
That's like actually upsetting to me because
Yeah,
what is that last
I
name? So
know.
Jif, I know to be Jif. There's
Mhm.
Skippy and there's Jif,
Mhm.
just because that's what my mom bought growing up. Also, would kind of make sense for you because you're definitely allergic to peanuts. That you wouldn't be like,
Oh,
got these brands
yeah.
on lock.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that would make sense.
But Berenstein. It's
Yeah.
Berenstein. Like,
Yeah.
what does Berenstain even, what is that
Yeah,
name? Who has named that?
that's not real.
That's not
Yeah,
real. That's made up. And
no.
obviously, the bears, the fictional bears, are also made up. But
Yeah.
it's like upsetting to me because I've looked at people who've edited it to be Berenstein, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And then they're like, nope, this is what it actually
Yeah.
is. And I was like, no.
Yeah. I know,
I
yeah, I
don't.
think there are a lot of, like, quizzes sort of online that's like,
Yes,
"Which one is right?" And you
the
almost always
logos.
pick the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Like, the
it's
Target
crazy.
logo, that one,
Yep.
you think that the Target is, like, red in the middle and then there's the white circle,
Mhm.
but it's actually 2 white circles over a
Yeah,
red background.
fucks me up.
So,
That
yeah,
really fucks me.
yeah, same.
Oh my god.
So then let's see a few others. C3PO for any Star Wars fans. He has a silver leg where most people are like, I swear he has
Wait,
an
what?
entirely gold
He's
body.
all gold.
Apparently
Oh my
not.
god. I'm looking this up right now.
He's got a
That's really
silver
upsetting.
leg. I know. Yeah. And then,
Oh my
do you see it?
Oh my god, yeah. He has a
Yeah.
silver lower leg.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I know. Crazy.
I'm gonna quiz Noah on that later because he's a Star Wars
Is he really?
nerd. Yeah.
Okay, well, ask him this one too, because
Okay.
a very famous misquote is we all think
Oh.
it's Luke, I am your father. It's
Hmm.
actually no, I am your father, not Luke.
What?
Yeah, that one.
No.
No,
What
I
the
am your
hell?
father. I think I need to see that in context, but
I do too. I'm gonna
yeah,
look up that scene.
yeah. Because what would he be saying no to? But we all
Like, you're
think
just a big
Luke.
bully bitch. And he's
Yeah.
like, no,
No, I'm
I
your
am your
father.
father.
That
Oh
sounds
my
right.
god. What?
Oh man. Um yeah, and then another famous movie one. It we all say mirror mirror on the wall, right?
Oh my god.
But it's
What are you gonna tell me?
magic mirror on the
What?
wall. Who's the fairest of them all?
From
Yeah.
Snow White?
Yeah. It's magic mirror on the wall.
How do we all misremember this?
I know. I
I don't
it doesn't
understand.
yeah. I don't get it either. So this also happens a lot with songs. I am not that surprised with song lyrics
Yeah,
really because I think we like fill in what we think makes sense or
we
like
don't
what
know.
sounds
Yeah.
good. But yeah, there are some with songs that like people swear they knew the song before it was actually released. And again, this isn't like
Whoa.
just one person's story. This is people who are like, yeah, I absolutely knew that song in the 90s, but it was released in 2008 or whatever. And I have a
Oh,
few of those
that's
stories.
weird.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so excited for that. Okay, I just have to like interject really quickly.
Yeah.
The one I immediately thought of was fuck, I can't think of who the artist is, but Are We Human? Are We Dancer? When it's usually
Oh, yeah.
Dancer, but everyone thinks it's Dancer because of how he says it, which sends me.
Wait, what? It's denser? No way. It's dancer.
It's not. That's not really a Mandela effect. That's just like
Yeah.
weird pronunciation. But I
Yeah.
looked at the lyrics one time because I was like, are we human or dancer? Dancers are
Yeah.
usually also human. So what?
Right. That's true. Yeah. What's the other one?
So yeah.
Oh, with Red Hot Chili Peppers scar tissue. It sounds
Oh
like
God.
Scott tissue, like the toilet paper.
Got tissue that wish you stop.
Uh-huh.
Oh shit. Yeah,
Um,
there are a lot of those. There's
yeah.
also that one that's like, that like operatic one that's like da 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 da
Oh,
da da
yeah.
da
Uh-huh.
da 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 da. And people are always like, it gave me diarrhea. You're welcome, everyone, for the
Uh-huh.
free opera
That was
clip.
a performance. Yeah.
But that one makes me laugh. Like people do post, because I mean, I think it's in Latin, so it's
Uh-huh.
not a Mandela effect thing, but it's just fucking funny because
Yeah.
people are like, "Now you can't unhear it," and
Yep.
it's true. You can't.
Yep. It's kind of like those things. Like, have you heard the recordings that it's like, the really big one was Yanny or Laurel or something like that? Have you
Oh
heard
my
that?
god, yeah, yes,
And with some of them, you can train yourself to hear both.
yeah.
But then I feel like
Mhm.
others, I will hear something and then I think the one I'm remembering, I was with Megan, my sister, and she was like, they're not saying that. And I was like, yes, they are. And we were hearing opposite things. But
Well, remember the blue and white
oh,
dress? The
yeah.
blue and black or the white and gold? I
Yeah.
see blue and black. There
Yeah,
was
me too.
one time I like forced my eyeballs to see white and gold, and I could never see it again. I can't.
Yeah,
Like I
same.
see blue and black.
Yep, same. I
It's
know.
so
It's
weird.
weird.
Like what?
Yeah. And yeah,
Okay,
those
sorry, I
are
took us on some tangent.
no, those yeah, it's all related. Like I don't think those would be Mandela effect, but
No,
it's just
but they're just
so
weird.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah,
Our brains play tricks on us sometimes.
truly.
Um but let's see where I left off. So, okay, some Mandela effect advocates, they called themselves, they genuinely think that the Mandela effect is like a real effect based on the many worlds or multiverse theory, and
Oh.
that there are things occurring differently on parallel timelines in parallel realities. So, yeah,
Oh,
that's what
that's
they're thinking.
fascinating.
Yeah. But then that would imply that we're like jumping timelines sometimes, or like,
Or glitching,
yeah,
right?
simultaneous. Yeah, I guess that's true. We've talked about that a lot. So
Yeah.
that's possible.
Which I just think is like absolutely happens. Like
Yeah.
I just there's too much stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So that's one theory. And
Yeah.
the this one's kind of just silly, but this was in a actually a CNN article
Mhm.
that some people think that so the large hadron or hadron, I don't know, collider,
Oh.
it's the particle accelerator at CERN that was in the which book was that? Dan Brown.
Oh, not angels and demons, but
Yeah, the other
that
one.
next one.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
remember right now. But
me
um
neither. I'll look it
yeah, they think that when they activated that thing in 2008, it opened a portal to a different dimension. And it's kind of
up.
interesting timing just because that's when like the Mandela effect was coined, if you will.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but
Is it Inferno?
oh, yeah, I think it might be. Or
It's
is
from
it
the
Angels and
trilogy with
Demons?
angels and demons, right?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know, because I also maybe this is another Mandela effect thing. Dan Brown's novels about Professor Robert Langdon, Angels and Demons was first before the Da Vinci Code?
Hmm.
I
I
always thought it was Da Vinci Code was first.
Yeah, same.
But
That's
it's
the
like
order I read them
2000.
in.
Yeah, 2000 is Angels and Demons, 2003 is Da Vinci Code, and 2013 was Inferno.
Hmm.
That's
Very
so.
odd.
And there are actually two more, Lost Symbol and Origin, that I've never even heard of. Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
Glitching.
Yeah. It might have been Angels and Demons, but regardless, it's in one of those
Yeah.
books. But
Yeah.
it was kind of funny. Somebody from CERN, I'm saying CERN, but it's CERN.
Yeah. I think people call it CERN.
Yeah, okay. Clara Nellist, she responded on their TikTok of all places, specifically about Oreo double stuff cookies, that people either thought it was stuff with two F's or double stuffed with the ed on the end, but it's
Yeah.
actually double stuff with one F.
STUF. I
Yeah,
noticed that recently at the grocery store.
yeah. I
And I
think I
was
knew
like,
that one, but
is that new?
yeah,
But no, but well, that's one that like doesn't. Some of them kind of make sense because your brain just fills in. I mean, our brains fill in a ton of stuff and filter out a ton of
right.
stuff like constantly.
Yeah,
So that one does make sense to me.
yeah.
But the certain thing is really weird.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're like firing this thing up, and then suddenly people have these weird recollections.
Hmm. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, this person, a particle physicist was on their TikTok and she was like, I can promise you we are not going around changing labels on your food. Because she was responding to the Oreo thing. Like, no, we did
Right.
not take the
We did
extra
not
F
do that.
off the end of your
We don't
cookie.
own Mondelez.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's not
That,
us.
yep.
We're scientists.
Double stoof.
Double
But
stoof. What if
yeah,
it had like an umlaut and no
yeah.
one realized? That would
It's
fuck me up.
double stoof.
Doodle
Not.
stoof. Doodle stoof.
Yeah, that would not
Oh
be okay.
God.
But now I'm going to read some stories
Okay.
that seem very parallel universi. So, one very peculiar collective memory that demonstrates how powerful false recall can be, that is a little hint for later.
Okay.
It So in the 90s, or so they think, there was a movie called Shazam starring Sinbad. But
Hmm.
that movie doesn't exist. There was never a
What do you
movie.
mean?
There was never a movie with Sinbad. There was Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal, but there was never a Shazam with Sinbad
Uh,
in the 90s.
what?
So, but everyone swears that they
Oh,
remember
I
Shazam.
remember that.
Yeah, but it's not real. Hmm.
You're like messing with my childhood right
Yeah,
now.
sorry. I mean, I remember Kazam.
It's our childhood, so
Yeah,
it's fine.
right. Yeah, really weird. But a lot of people are like, no, I know I've seen Shazam
Yeah, I feel
with
like I remember
Sinbad.
looking at like the VHS tape at my next door neighbor's house.
Yeah, you didn't, unless you were in a different
You didn't.
different timeline.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, but then let's do one other short one. Let's see. This is from Reddit, and the username is Punny Lass. So
Honey lass.
yeah, Punny Lass, she is talking about the song Pumped Up Kicks. She said,
Mm-hmm.
this song came out in 2011. So why on earth do I remember it from my childhood? I was born in 1986 and remember it coming out around 95 or 96. When it came out, again, in her mind, in 2011, I knew every word of it and went looking for the original. Turns out it is the original. Anyone else remember this? And there were people in the comments like, yeah, I knew the words to this song when it came out too.
Okay, I was hoping you'd read a story about this because I want to ask you this. So, I think you and I are pretty like maybe not equally musically minded. You're probably more musically minded because you can like read music, which I can't. I can
Yeah.
sight read like vocals, but not really
Yeah.
that well anymore.
Mhm.
Do you find that when you hear a new song on the radio, you can predict the melody?
Sometimes, like with pop music,
Hmm.
and I don't know if that's just
Yeah.
because there's like a cookie cutter sort of
Yeah.
thing with pop.
But like the bridge, I can even
Yeah.
predict the bridge sometimes. Like I will
Yeah.
start singing it and sometimes the words.
Yeah.
Like, and my mom has called it out like multiple times. We'll be in the car and we'll be playing something, and she's like, "How do you
Do
know
you
this
know?
song? Like, is it
Yeah.
brand new?" And
Uh,
I'm like, "Yeah, I've never heard it before." And she's like, "How are you singing it then?" And I'm like, I mean, of course, like the chorus because it's repetitive, but
mhm.
like I can predict what they're gonna say, but I don't think about it. I'm not like, "Oh, I bet it's gonna be
Yeah.
love builds a river," or whatever. But I
Yeah.
just like
It
my
just comes
brain
out.
just does it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Which, I mean, arguably is kind of the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Not I mean, I think it's different, like, if because I wonder too, like, was there maybe when you first started that one, I was like, "Well, maybe there's a song with the same chord progression, like, even the bridge, the whole thing,"
Yeah.
but knowing all the lyrics
Mhm.
is weird,
That is weird.
especially because
Especially
it's a dark song.
right. Yeah. And also pumped up kicks is like so random.
It's not even
That's
me
not
that.
about like
That is
Love Builds a
so
River if for your
right.
example.
Which, like, okay, Adele could write
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
weird.
very strange. And this one is in a similar vein, but a little bit longer. So this is from Dee Dee Silver, and they wrote, "Let's start by talking about the song Miss Jackson by Outkast."
Love
Yep,
that song.
same. So,
I am for real.
yep. So, as most people are aware, the song was released in late 2000 and topped the charts in early 2001. It actually won a Grammy for Best Rap Performance in 2002. Now, in 2001, I was stationed in Germany with the US Air Force. I was working mid shift at a communications facility and needed to take some paperwork to another office. When I walked in, the music video by Outkast was playing on the TV. I remarked that I was surprised that the song would be remade so soon, as it was popular when I was in college in 1992 through 1994. Um, one of the girls working there said she didn't think it was a remake, but who knows? So he tried looking it up on the internet in my office, but I could only find the Outcast version online. My
Hmm.
memories of the song were clear. My group of friends in college even had a joke about saying forever, ever when someone mentioned the word forever, and sometimes would sing the falsetto, I am for real, when trying to convey sincerity. So,
That's really
yeah,
weird.
two parts of that song.
Oh, that gives me chills, like iconic parts that aren't
Yeah,
in anything else.
right, exactly. Forever, ever is like, yeah, that's
Oh, so
very.
the one thing I was thinking is like, well, maybe like the Sandlot, because
Mm,
doesn't he say like forever and ever, like some movie like that?
oh,
There's another like
yeah,
quote, but it's not sung.
yeah,
And also that,
the falsetto. Yeah,
and
yeah,
then the I'm for
for
real.
real. I
What?
know. Yeah, really weird. So later that year, I had the chance to go home on leave and visit with some of my old college buddies. I asked them about Miss Jackson and our little in jokes. Instantly, one of them saying, I am for real, and we all laughed. But then we, the four of us, agreed that it was popular when we were all in college together about 10 years prior to the actual release of the song. We talked about our memories of the song, the video being played on the TVs in the student union, the song being on the radio all the time, and things like that. Then we discussed our reactions to hearing the song. We'd all assumed it was either a cover or a re release. Um,
What the fuck? This one gives me like chills. That
I
is
know.
weird.
It's really weird. Um, yeah, they had just ended it with, so did we have some sort of futuristic radio and TV stations back in the 90s? Are
Oh
all
my
four of
God.
us experiencing some sort of collective deja vu? Um, and this one had a lot of comments on the original post of people
Yeah.
agreeing. Like,
No.
I swear I knew that song before it came out. Like, it was popular when I
Wait,
was in high school, and that was the 90s. Like,
it's
everyone's saying
crazy.
that. Yeah, really weird.
Okay, and the thing that's weird about that, so if we like suspend belief for a minute and just all agree that it's an alternate universe or like parallel track kind of thing,
Yeah,
it's really weird that our artists are the same as their artists and they
yeah,
end up releasing the same music.
right. Yeah, that is.
There's kind of like a fate component
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
or arguably a simulation theory, but like
yeah.
hate. So we're not talking about
No,
that.
not right now. That's not for
But
today.
that's weird, right?
It is weird. Yeah,
And it
it's
would be one thing if it's like maybe they went to school with Andre 3000 and
yeah,
overheard the first
right.
recording. You know what I mean? Like something weird like that. Like, oh, I
Yeah,
was at Berkeley College of Music when Maggie
yeah,
Rogers was there and
right.
like praying for rain. I like
Yeah,
knew that
do that.
song. But or even if you'd heard it subconsciously somehow, like you'd heard it and didn't remember hearing it and you were like, oh no, I knew that song. But this like when it's so many people,
Mhm. Yeah. It's
Unwell. This is
weird.
crazy.
Yeah. You want to know a weird, unrelated anecdote from
Yes.
my past? Is
Yes.
that,
Always.
you know, the band Young the Giant?
Yes.
They were in Denver one time when I was still on the dating apps, and I
Hmm.
matched with the lead singer of the band.
I think you
And
told me when this happened.
my question was, who's your favorite member of Outkast? And I feel like that's kind of telling.
That's super
That's,
telling.
yeah, mine's Big Boy. I don't
I
know.
was gonna say mine's Big
Yeah.
Boy. Do you listen to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me still on
No, not
NPR?
really.
Okay, I'm gonna send you the Big Boy episode. He is
Okay.
like a an exotic bird collector.
Of
He is
course.
so cool and
Hmm.
weird, and
Yeah.
Big Boy is the best. So,
Yes.
Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me is a an NPR like radio show slash podcast now. That's like their game show, like a word game show essentially, and it's like local, like recent. It's really a news game show actually, but it's like so fun and like keeps you updated on current events, but in a way that's very fun and funny. And they get like the most amazing panel and super cool guests. Big
Hmm.
Boy was on maybe like 2021. Like it was like still pandemic era, I'd say. He's so cool. That is
Yeah.
an excellent
He's-
opener. Neither of
Thank
us are on
you.
the dating apps anymore, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell someone who
Okay.
is
Yeah.
to fucking use that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Have him use it. I think he said Andre 3000, if I remember
And you were like,
correctly. Mm, yeah.
boo. I thought you were gonna say who's your favorite member of Young the Giant?
No. I couldn't name a
Like,
single one of them.
me?
Me? Myself, I guess.
Honestly though, he probably would have said me if he said Andre 3000. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's probably true. I'm gonna look up
Right?
their picture really quick. Young the
Yeah,
Giant.
can you remember who it was?
No,
That's
I
so
can't.
funny. Did you listen to on that note, did you listen to Andre 3000's weird like flute album?
No, I didn't. I
I
didn't
haven't
even know
either, but
that
I've heard it's
existed.
like so zen. Yeah, he was like basically said like the like rap music just like doesn't come to me anymore. And he's like,
Wow.
I want to make music and like this is the
Yeah.
kind of music I want to make now. And people were like
Interesting.
up in arms and then they heard it and it's like weird, like
Mhm.
completely off from what he's ever done before.
Yeah.
Like instrumental and
Mhm.
like almost like meditation music, I think. I still haven't
Yeah.
listened to it, but this is like reports I've heard from other people and it's
Mhm.
like actually quite good. So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Maybe worth checking out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's on Andre 3000.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the guy from Young the Giant is really cute, so I see why. I see why we matched.
Did you go on a date with him?
No, no. I was gonna see if I could
Which
get
one?
tickets.
Which one was Oh my god, you're
The,
hilarious. Which one
like,
was he?
front guy, if you just look at the first image, the one
Yeah, yeah,
standing in the
yeah.
front.
Oh,
Yeah.
he is cute. In like the jumpsuit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's very cute.
Oh,
That's
man. Those were the days of Tinder. I
Tinder.
was very
Back
fortunate.
before there was a garbage fire.
Wait, what? It was a garbage
Back
fire?
before back before Tinder was a total
Oh,
garbage fire.
yeah, yeah.
I feel like
True.
it was like reputable because it was like the first one. And
Yeah,
so everyone was like on Tinder and then
yeah.
it just was like meow.
No. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a long tangent, but
Yeah.
the Mandela effect. Um, at this point, it's like pretty in the mainstream. Like they're doing scientific research about this now. I don't know their exact like research procedures or anything, but it's been pretty inconclusive so far. Like there's no one clear explanation for why we have this. But
Unexplained phenomena.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, just one of the researchers said like very often when we're processing information, we see things as we think they are rather than they actually are, which is kind of what you
Yeah.
said. Um, and that our attention is a very interesting phenomenon. With the Mandela effect, people are often remembering things the way they think they should be rather than they are because we process things very quickly in our everyday lives. So, like somebody said, for example, with a false memory test, they would give you a list of words that are like pin, cotton, thread, all related to sewing. And then when you ask them later on to recall what words they were, people would say needle, stitching, or
Oh,
like they would
yeah.
group it together.
Other
Like,
related
yeah,
words. Yeah.
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's one thing. But then the last part, when this research came out, Fiona Broom, who is the original like
Mhm.
creator of this effect, she wrote a post on her website saying like, no way that the Mandela effect, this is not just false memories. She said that that's really overly simplifying what's going on, and it's kind of insulting to people's intelligence, because
Mhm.
she felt that they were saying that people were having these memories and like holding on to them and refusing to believe
Oh,
that it was wrong, and also
yeah.
refusing to look it up was what they she
Right.
felt that they were implying. But she's like,
Yeah.
no, we're it's just weird that we all share this experience. But
Mhm.
I liked what she wrote, so I'm just going to read it real quick. She
Mhm.
wrote, I'm not sure whether to feel sorry for those who choose the simple false memories explanation. They're missing the intrigue of exploring a wealth of evidence that may point to parallel realities and many interacting worlds. For me, that's the fun part of Mandela effect speculation and research. Yes, for those who rush to simplistic answers, perhaps life may be complex and challenging enough. That's okay. They have my sympathy, and really, I have nothing to prove. However, I'm irked when small vocal groups of critics suggest that we're not bright enough to fact check our own memories, or throw other badly flawed accusations at us. My message to them is this: attempting to brush aside the Mandela effect as false memories will not make science vanish. And I'd really like the insulting rhetoric to cease. So,
That's really interesting.
yeah, and that could apply to a lot of things, a lot of unexplained stuff. It's like, this isn't going to erase science, but isn't it
Yeah.
fun to suspend belief or like just entertain these ideas for a
Yeah.
while?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, because I mean, there was a point in time where we thought our solar system, well, we thought the Earth was flat, and we
yeah,
thought the solar system was actually the Earth system.
right.
Like, we believe a lot of things to be true until we realize that they're not.
Yes.
And just because we don't have scientific evidence to prove something yet doesn't mean
Yeah.
we won't.
Yeah. Exactly.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's that on that.
That's that on that. Unexplained phenomena, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen.
I love it.
Um, wow. Well, thanks for joining. This is a lengthy episode, but a
Yeah.
good palate cleanser because we're going to scare your little booties off next week.
Yeah.
Um, email us your stories at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. They don't just have to be ghost stories, they can be weird finger gun at streetlight stories, or
Yeah.
if you've seen Bigfoot, or if you've seen
Who you
a
matched with on Tinder.
vampire. Yeah, who you matched with on
Yeah.
Tinder.
Hmm.
Who's your favorite member of Outcast? If it's not Big Boy, wrong answer.
Yeah. Or your
Um,
favorite member of Young the Giant. I couldn't
yeah.
name a single one of them.
Samir Godney, I think, is the guy who
Okay.
almost went on to
Yeah.
take it. So that one,
All
probably.
right. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.